Hello and welcome back. Today is day 2 of Tailored Expressions Blender Brushes release. Yesterday I introduced the brushes and reviewed it as well as used it on the stencil. Today I am going to do some emboss resist technique using the blender brushes. So let's get started. Please forgive me, I think I'm coming down with flu and a bit nasally at the moment. So please bear with my breathing as well as my nasally voice today. I have a sugar cube panel trimmed to the size of the card front. Instead of white heat embossing an image on the card panel directly and then sponging the color inks to get the emboss resist image, I decided I wanted to add color to my heat embossed image first. You can do it two ways. You can color heat emboss the image, or the other option is what I'm doing now. I'm going to sponge the entire panel with inks. The inks I'm using here are Distress Oxide inks. I picked Spice Marmalade, Seedless Preserve, picked Raspberry, and Abandoned Coral. You did see me change the Abandoned Coral to Barn Door because I wanted a vibrant red. So I sponge the inks randomly on my card panel to cover the entire card panel. There is no method to madness here, just pure mad ink blending. Then I'm going to use my heat gun to dry the panel completely. This step is extremely important because the next step is embossing the image. So we do not want the embossing powder to stick in all unnecessary places except on the image that is being stamped. And the ink that I have blended now needs to dry completely. The embossing powder I'm going to use is clear embossing powder from Tailored Expressions. Here you can see me use the embossing powder on the sponged panel just to check whether the panel is completely dry or not. Then I am going to use Pretty Posies background stamp from Tailored Expressions to stamp using the sticky ink and heat emboss using clear embossing powder. The anti-static powder bag step is very important before any heat embossing process, and I think we all know that. After heat embossing, I get a tone-on-tone effect. The heat embossing also traps the color under it, making them a colored heat embossed image. Okay, at this point, I can choose two paths. One, I can use black Distress Oxide or Distress ink to sponge all over the panel so the background becomes black and the colored heat embossed image stands out against the stark black contrast background. Or I can use the same colors of Distress Oxide inks I used previously to sponge heavily to get more tone-on-tone effect. This effect will be subtle. I chose the second option. I know it is shocking, right? Because I love high contrast, but I also love lots of colors. Hence, I chose the second option. Look how cool it looks. I used the microfiber cloth to buff off the inks on top of the embossing to make the embossed image nice and glossy. Next, I used a stitched oval die from Tailored Expressions stitched oval stacklet to die cut the center of the panel. Then I trimmed the panel to 4 inches by 5¼ inch in size. So when I adhere it to the white card base, I have a white border around the panel. For the sentiment, I used this beautiful sentiment from Wonderful World stamp set, also from Tailored Expressions. I want to heat emboss the sentiment as well, and hence I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And I'm making sure the die cut oval is completely dry because I don't want the embossing powder to stick on it elsewhere other than on the stamped sentiment. Using Mini Misty, I stamped the sentiment on the stitched oval die cut, then stamped the image using VersaFine Onyx black ink, then clear heat embossed the sentiment using Tailored Expressions clear detailed embossing powder. So before I start assembling the card together, I decided I need texture to my background panel. Hence, I added clean clear water to the background panel and mopped the excess off with the microfiber cloth. So this adds a beautiful texture to the background panel. I adhered this panel to the card base using foam adhesive for dimension, then glued the sentiment oval die cut directly to the center of the card base. A few Nuvo white glossy drops to finish off the card. This ties in with the white border around the card. After finishing, I actually realized that I wanted a little bit more of white element on the card, because the white background and the Nuvo drops were very structured. I wanted something which is not structured. Hence, I used white gouache to spatter all over the card, and now this looks much better. It ties in all the white elements on the card and completes the card. So here is the final card. I have more emboss resist card projects on my corresponding blog post, as well as details on Blunder Brushes release. I will leave the link to my blog post in the description box below. All the supplies I used to make this card are also listed below. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.